The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on the Canna Connect show belong solely to the individuals and do not reflect those of Canna Connect and its affiliates, sponsors, or partners. Canna Connect does not promote or facilitate any activity that violates state or federal regulations. Everything you hear here is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not legal advice, it is not financial guidance, and it's definitely not medical direction. Seriously, don't take our word for it. Even if someone on the mic sounds like they know what they're talking about, and they're probably crazy smart too. Regardless of how legit our guests may be, you should always do your own homework, consult with your attorney, and understand the risk you're taking before you do anything when it comes to cannabis. Our intention is to keep it real. If you've got a problem with anything we've said, take us to court.
Oh, this is a fun one. Do you know about this?
Not fully yet, so here we go.
So Cannasure is a cannabis insurance group that Cory Lake works with closely to buy policies for his clients. World is a company that basically bought Cory and said, hey, Cory, come work with World. You can still work with Cannasure, but you're going to work under World. Now Cory's able to offer more than just cannabis insurance. Right. It gives him more of an opportunity to serve more different markets.
Yep.
And
more diverse set of clientele.
Yeah, and he's still doing insurance. You still call Cory Lake, but now you might reply to a World Insurance email instead of a Lake Group Insurance email. Yeah. But nothing's changed. Nothing but good things are coming.
Cory Lake will be around all weekend, so
yes,
you can't miss that face. You got to find the guy.
Cory Lake for life. Insurance. Welcome back to the Canna Connect show. I'm your host, Stephen Eigenman. We are live from Lucky Leaf. It is Friday afternoon. We're gearing up for an incredible weekend. I'm joined by Cory Lake of Lake Group Insurance and World Insurance Associates, as well as Jim McErlean with Cannasure. Together, these two do a lot of business. They help insure folks like you in the cannabis industry. How did you guys meet? How far back does it go?
I stalked Cory while he was stalking me.
Yeah.
I know I did a presentation in Minnesota. I was remote, sitting in my living room in Hermosa Beach, California. And it was a class for insurance agents on cannabis. So I had to have a legitimate, non-commercial discussion on cannabis insurance, the industry, at large for both insurance and cannabis, kind of merged those two things together. And apparently he was sitting in the room without my knowledge.
An agent.
I got an idea of who was in attendance because I was remote. And I'm like, Cory Lake, I've seen that guy's name and other things. So it was a mutual, who's going to make the first move? And we've been dating ever since. So, yeah.
And what did you like about Cannasure in relation to the rest of the industry market?
Well, their policy language. I mean, that's really the kind of the takeaway from all of the stuff that I've researched over the years. Their policy language is the best in the industry.
Right.
You guys were not first in. Were you second in as far as I know you're?
Yeah, I think we're second longest tenured cannabis insurance provider.
Okay.
And we became a risk taker in 2017.
Wow.
We've been at it for quite a while.
Yeah. And I mean, in insurance policies that don't actually meet what you're doing are not good policies. They're a waste of money, right? It's important that you have a policy that matches the risk that you're taking.
I mean, yes.
I mean, it's obvious, right? But it's worth stating that there needing to be alignment.
And not all policies are equal at the end of the day. Every single one is going to be nuanced. We will find different things fit in different places, but Cannasure, the one thing that we find universal is that everybody uses the Cannasure app.
Yeah.
So, the applications. When I send an application out, we send the Cannasure application out for somebody to fill out. And if we present to a different insurance company, they accept their app.
Interesting.
It's like the U.S. It is like the U.S. stuff.
We have that kind of pull, Stephen.
Yeah.
But the one thing's important to understand with Cory is, as an independent agent, he has multiple carrier solutions at his fingertips. We may be the best on a host of cannabis operators in the state of Minnesota, but the few that we don't, or even the transporters as an example, or coverages like cargo or commercial auto, we don't play in that marketplace, but Cory does. So while we have this awesome partnership, his independent agency World allows him to help all of the insurance needs in the industry.
Right. So working with Cannasure is a choice.
100%.
It's not a mandate. you're not obligated necessarily, but you find that Cannasure, and am I using the right terminology? Cannasure policies are some of the best policies out there for cannabis entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
And World Insurance tends to agree. Tell me a little bit about how World interfaces with Cannasure.
Yeah. So interestingly, one of our largest customers, insurance agent customers, Cory's customers are the operators, right? My customers are insurance agents. So one of our largest ones in the state of Washington recently sold his agency into World. So we had this great relationship prior.
Oh, yeah.
We had known some of the leaders at World Insurance out east in New Jersey and Massachusetts. And as we were all having this conversation, what's happening in Minnesota, Cory was wise enough to say those resources in the cannabis space are going to help me and my clients in the state of Minnesota.
Makes sense.
And so they joined forces. World has been at this for upwards of 7 years themselves.
Right.
So they're as OG in the cannabis insurance industry as Cory is to the Minnesota cannabis industry.
So what else? I mean, we don't have to talk about all of it, but what are some of the other similarities or like-mindedness that you found in having conversations with World and getting to a place where you're saying, hey, I'm ready for a new home?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it was size is a big part. As companies start to grow, you need to have infrastructure to be able to help those clients.
Yeah.
Especially when we get into groups that are 20 people, 25, 50 people.
Right.
All of a sudden, those bodies start to make a big difference. And you have to have a team that understands how to grow companies to scale.
Your clients are starting to grow.
Correct.
Literally, figuratively.
Literally and figuratively. It is, and that is going to be a big part about being able to stay on top of those. Yeah. And then to be able to consistently help them as they grow into much larger organizations.
I see. And that makes a lot of sense because as your clients grow, you want to grow with them.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be caught up in the snowball, like overwhelmed.
Not only that, well, you get overwhelmed, but then you just can't help people anymore. Here, all of a sudden, your service starts to suffer. The clients are going to be able to feel that.
Yeah.
You get into, let's say you've got 5 stores, and for a lot of small agencies, that's just too much to manage. And you have people on the back end that need to help manage those things and the ever-changing and evolution of how those businesses run. So in between creating certificates for people or doing, just taking in the money or figuring out different LLCs, if you do not have the infrastructure to do it,
what's going on behind me?
You don't want to know.
I don't want to. Nice. That's awesome. Plus, Jim, how different is cannabis insurance from car insurance, regular insurance?
Markedly different because you have to have language specific for the industry. So we actually created a number of endorsements that had to speak to cannabis and people like the bud tenders, as we call them by nickname, because they provide advice at the dispensary. And so you have to recognize that professional liability exposure exists in this marketplace. It doesn't exist at a 7-Eleven, for example.
Right. Yes. Okay. So if I'm going to pick on the cash register at 7-Eleven, they're going to deal me a pack of Skull. They're going to deal me a pack of Marlboros. They're going to deal me a Zyn. Gas station insurance is not as regulated as cannabis insurance, or
it's not. But the reality is you're choosing to buy products that you probably have an idea, and you're not asking the clerk for his or her advice that you want the Zyn, the Marlboro pack, or whatever. When you go to a dispensary, you often are asking the staff, I have pain,
seeking.
What product you think I should buy for my knee pain? And what happens if that knee pain was misdiagnosed by the bud tender because the person actually had a headache and they now overused, let's say, their product, and they blamed it on the bud tender for the bad advice because my knee pain didn't go away because I had a headache. And that silly example is a legitimate professional liability exposure of which we have to draft language because you have to protect the dispensary for dispensing knowledge, not just dispensing products.
And as you and I talk about often, there is a lot more data on the tobacco and alcohol side of the sin industry than what we have available to us on both hemp and the cannabis industry. And so when it comes to insurance and risk tolerance and things like that, there's a lot more understood with tobacco than what we're talking about with the plant. The cannabis way.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and that goes into how expensive policies are, how much risk insurance agents or not agents policies are willing to
Well, it gets into the claims handling as well.
claims. Okay.
And so claims are a big, big part of how the market or how pricing is dictated. If we know, I love to use like the Honda Civic.
Okay.
You take a Honda Civic, we know how many of those are going to be manufactured.
Yep.
We know how many of them are going to be sold.
Okay.
We know on average how many of those are going to have car accidents throughout the year, and we can do that on a global scale. So all of a sudden, it's like we know that a Honda Civic in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, this is about how much it's going to cost. And they can that it's dynamic, so they use a lot of dynamic pricing for that sort of stuff. But that's what we're missing in the Canada space, because we want national or global averages on what the claims are, how much they cost, what they look like, to be able to drive the cost to where it needs to be.
Is there aggregation happening with the state by state market as we have it now? Is there a way to bulk understand the national market? Because there is not a federally legal cannabis market as of
They're just medical.
right.
Nope.
But
And that's not enough.
But the claims data doesn't exist because we all have that as proprietary. So Cannasure has our claims data. Our competitors have their claims data, and no one's going to look to share that information. So having the ability to price the industry based on its own data is very difficult. But now we've got 5 to 7 years that is now becoming more credible.
Good.
And so at a certain point, we'll all start pricing the industry for what it is, not what assumptions were made.
Okay.
And you have to understand there's a chain of command that goes from our underwriting team to our carrier partner team to the reinsurance team, and everyone makes assumptions. Now we're starting to do those discussions based on our own data, but that doesn't mean we know the data from our competitors.
I see.
So it's still kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, and I would say the greatest example is that on-premise consumption. I mean, Minnesota, that's something.
Yeah,
that
let's talk about Minnesota.
I mean, that's the big one for us, is that on-premise consumption piece. And those prices have been excessive. But no, like we talked about it before, nobody wants to be first on that claim, because that claim is going to be big, more than likely. It's going to be a car accident. Somebody's going to get injured, and then that's going to go to the courts, and somebody's going to have to fight that for a long time to figure out where that lands.
I see.
So they've got to price that in a way that makes sense. Risk reward.
Of course. Inside dispensaries, how prevalent is theft? Is that something that you guys look into with insurance?
It's our number one active claim. So let's say there's 100 claims that occur across the industry.
Yeah.
Theft is easily 70% of those. So it's a huge number. Thankfully, they don't amount to a whole lot.
Yeah.
And a great example, here in Minnesota, we happen to go to Island Pesci.
Sure.
Stop by the dispensary.
Yeah.
It is guarded by little soldiers, the little bollards, is what they call them, I believe.
Yeah.
But there's 20 surrounding both sides.
Yeah.
A car cannot drive into that.
Yes.
But that's what is happening in other places. So Minnesota is actually, at least that location, ahead of its time.
Okay.
Ahead of
I
its
see what you
game,
mean.
which is awesome. But you're seeing a lot of vehicles driving into a building to open up the doors in which to steal product.
Bang, bang.
Happens all the time.
We're not talking about a gummy pack here and a gummy pack here. We're talking about forcefully entering, because it's a cash-based business, so they're coming for the cash. They're coming for the vaults. Or there's a black market, so they can take that product and yeah. Smells like somebody's got something going on.
We talk about the ballards, which are the giant concrete things, but something you can do is call the city and say, hey, we need a bike rack out front.
Yeah.
And you may be able to find deterrents. And all we're looking for is a deterrent.
Yes.
We need to slow down the fees.
Okay.
So
Sure.
that could be a tree, that could be a bike rack, that could be concrete blocks, whatever it is. But anything you can do to slow it down so the police can get there before they actually get to the any of the products.
How has your creativity evolved in this cannabis industry career cannabis insurance industry career? Because what I'm hearing is like, I'm thinking of you playing The Sims and, oh, I'm going to click and drag a tree. Oh, all right, my insurance policy is going to be a little bit better now. Oh, I'm going to pull a bike rack. How creative. This is insurance, but yes, insurance, but very creative in how you approach to serve your clientele, to serve your customers.
Well, it's the greatest part about this is that it's unlike any other type of insurance. The closest thing that I can relate it to is cyber insurance when that first came out, which is probably 15 years ago, something like that. So it's dynamic. We're seeing new products come out all the time.
Yeah.
These guys are constantly changing, trying to do better work to help clients become more efficient and effective.
Cool.
As we see claims, adjusting policy language, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a creative space. We're not bored. I mean, it's and we're dealing with, because we both deal nationally, we get to deal with every single state. And it's like, as soon as you've got one down, you've got something else that pops up somewhere else. And you're like, oh my gosh, a new rule, a new regulation. How do we deal with that?
What other states pique your interest or take up some of your time?
The ones that I'm really interested in is Georgia.
Yeah. Okay.
Georgia and Texas. I think Texas is.
Those are hemp states.
They're hemp states, and I think they're going to be big recreational. They wish they were big recreational market.
I was talking to Comcast Business earlier, and I shared the we've crossed the breaking, or what's that? The marketing term is we're past the tipping point. Right now we now have more adult use. It's about 50-50. You got 41 medical states. The tipping point has happened, and it's only a matter of time before Atlanta or Georgia and Texas become adult use states.
Yeah.
But man, are there some folks that just don't want anything to do with marijuana still in 2026?
There's still a little of that. You can make a political assumption.
Yep.
So the red states seemingly don't, Bible Belt states seemingly don't, but yet Alabama and Mississippi have both lodged into the medical world.
Right.
And obviously we know the plant does have very potent medical applications.
It does. Yeah.
So I think just in reality, it's going to continue on in a very good way. Some states will say no to recreational, that whole red versus blue state story. But at least if we get the medical piece, it's still going to be good for our collective industry.
You're right. Now, every medical program and every adult use program is different. That's one of the most challenging parts about companies growing, right? Because they have to do it state by state, and you've got to set up new operations, abide by different laws. I would love to see Schedule 3 take place. I would love to see safer banking take place. I would love to see some of these things that would even the playing field across the country.
Yeah.
And obviously everyone here would. Not everyone, but a fair majority would.
Well, I think that's a great sort of segue to a question. What does Schedule 3 mean for Cannasure?
It doesn't mean a lot because the banking piece is a much stronger component to changing the industry. Schedule 3 just means that there's that more of a medical component to it. So the regulation continues for us, which is important as an insurance provider because we're obviously accepting risk. The lessened risk, the better. And we rely on the regulations, which is why we love a state like Minnesota, who has just written their laws recently with knowledge. They followed a couple of states that had Massachusetts being a great state, Illinois being a great state, that require enough depth to get to that license because they had to jump through a few thresholds and barriers that make it hard to mess up the product. All the testing, right? All the different points of chain of command.
Yeah.
And
Cory and I were talking, though, if you're listening,
because we know you are,
cannabis goes through more stringent testing than our food does. And that's really tough because the food industry is so built out, the farming industry, the corn and soy in Minnesota, yes, I know it's David and Goliath, but you've got these micro businesses that are held to such stringent testing.
Yeah.
And it's just really hard. And I'm not appealing to you to say, oh, it's so hard. There is so much risk in getting into the cannabis industry. I don't think we can belabor that point enough.
Yeah.
Right.
I've got a fun story. So right when we started getting our first security stuff that was coming out, the OCM drops all their security measures. One of the first phone calls that I made was to a gentleman that runs pharmaceutical, and he does it for our statewide share. And I was like, tell me about your security measures. What do you guys have to do in pharmacy that I can kind of learn something from? And literally the first thing he says is, Cory, we don't deal in Schedule 1 drugs. It's not even close.
Yeah.
We have a couple of cameras in the safe.
And they're not touching heroin.
Right.
Right.
I mean, so I'm like, oh my gosh, we are held to a higher standard than any of the pharmacies that are out there that are giving out medications to people.
That's kind of mind blowing.
It was kind of mind blowing. The conversation ended pretty quick. Like, oh, okay.
There's a little bit of chain command in the narcotics space, but not in terms of how stringent the cannabis industry is held to the different security measures. You think it'd be identical, and it's not.
Right. Absolutely. You would think that would be sort of the level that they would look at and go, okay, if the pharmacies are doing this, then that should be good enough for us.
Interesting. But so on one hand, I hear you. Schedule 1 won't change that much, but down the closer we get to the plant, the less restrictions we would see, the less extremely overbearing compliance measures we would.
Right. Oh, I love that.
It would all
things off Schedule 3 or reschedule.
Right.
Because it allows the business to be operating as a business. Right now, it's operating almost like, with one hand tied behind your back, and that you're still a criminal.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not the case at all. This is a billions of dollar industry,
Right.
that needs some of the benefits of the IRS tax code,
Right.
of which we all know 280E. We want to see Schedule 3 pass,
Yeah.
or get implemented,
Right.
because we want the margins of the business to be stronger. We want the financial backdrops of these companies to be healthy, and that's only a better insurance risk for us. And so we're really supportive of the movement to Schedule 3.
That makes sense.
So we hope that happens sooner than later.
Great. Cory, what else are you hoping that happens sooner than later as it relates to the Minnesota cannabis industry?
Just excited for us to get off the ground.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all these people screaming from the balcony need flower.
Yeah.
And we need more flower. And the thing that I'm most excited about is I think 6 months from now, the landscape is going to be completely different. And we're seeing more people get into the space, which is also very exciting.
Great.
I mean, we've had so many fits and starts that finally it's like we're seeing the motion forward.
Yes.
And I think people are starting to get in the groove a little bit. The stores that are open are getting some product. They're starting to feel better about it, but we need more products.
Yes.
We need product, and we need testing facilities. We need, but that's what I'm excited for, is to start seeing the stuff move forward.
Amazing. If folks want to get in touch, where should they reach out?
Yeah, well, you can use my old email address.
All right, it still works.
Yeah, it still works. CLake at lakegroupinsurance.com.
Great.
And then it's also Cory Lake at worldinsurance.com.
And if you search Cory Lake, you're bound to find either a Cannaconnect interview or a website. And I mean, I can't let you guys leave without saying thank you for your support for this event today, as well as tonight.
We're excited.
We've got Wagyu empanadas, Wagyu mini burgers, Wagyu meatballs. We got beef tartare on the menu.
I can't wait.
It'll be a matter of time. Weed and Wagyu, we're bringing it together. We couldn't do it without you.
Yeah.
Thank you, and it's great to see you guys.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate everything Cannaconnect does for the industry. That's our pleasure.
Cool. All right, well, that's all for today. If you want to check out Cory Lake, make sure to give him a search. Check out Jim McErlean, both on LinkedIn, and we'll see you tonight at the Cannaconnect after party. Peace.